they just not friendly?
My roommate has the that's his curve screen. I don't know. It kind of looks cool. I think I probably might get one. There's one you get 3-in-1 or whatever. So
okay,
that's cool. All right, ready?
Yeah, let's go.
3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Jack Johannessen here. Jack Johannessen is from Minneapolis, Minnesota. He lives about 1 mile away from George Floyd's murder, where the incident happened. And we're going to be talking about a lot of subjects like George Floyd. We're going to talk about COVID. We're going to talk about a lot of Rams stuff. But first, we're going to have some Austin Hope wine by Paso Robles, and it's amazing stuff.
Having the word hope in the bottle is a good word to have for this year.
Yeah. Shout out to Paso Robles. Just sponsor me and just give me a bottle of wine each podcast. That'd be awesome. God, it's amazing.
All right, didn't pour that much.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Oh, I need that after a long day at work. So, give us a little background on yourself. What are you doing right now? What are you working on? I know you're going into your master's. So
yeah. So like you said, I live right now in Minneapolis. I'm visiting Seattle. This is where I partly grew up too. I grew up in both places. So I lived in Minneapolis from 1993 to 2004. And then my family and I moved to the Seattle area, but specifically Vashon Island.
Yeah.
And then I did middle school, high school, and there, and then went to Central Washington University for college.
Yeah.
And then I moved back to Minneapolis afterwards. So,
yeah.
Right now I'm starting a master's program in public health and specifically epidemiology in September. And
you're basically like health forecasters essentially. You always get it wrong.
Yeah, it's funny. So epidemiology is like the most basic way I can explain it is it's supposed to be like disease statistics. Mm-hmm. So it's supposed to be the study of how disease spreads and trying to trace its origin and stuff like that.
Is there like specific focuses like virology and biological, or like is it just a whole main thing? Is it just the spread of all diseases and viruses?
That's an interesting question. So it can be like infectious disease focused.
Okay.
But epidemiology can also be.
Can it be like obesity?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, okay,
it can be chronic conditions like obesity, heart disease, stuff like that. But my cousin works for CDC, and before he got pulled over to help with the COVID response, he was actually working on reproductive health epidemiology, which I guess would fall in could transition into the spread of sexually transmitted diseases, but I think some of it also has to do with like condom distribution. I think he was maybe working on under maybe like teen pregnancy stuff.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
And you also have a podcast as well that you do, once a month or once every other week or something.
Whenever I get around to
it. Exactly. When you have the time.
Yeah, it's hard because I'm also married and have a 15-month-old. So
yeah, see, this is why I could do podcasts more often, because I'm I'm not single, but I'm not married, and I'm just I have all the time in the world. So I feel like if I had a wife and kid, I'd probably be doing this probably just as often as you, or maybe a little bit more frequently, because yours goes into a lot more depth. You do a lot of research.
Yeah, I try to be as thorough as possible, and I hope to I really haven't gotten that much feedback yet. I've only been doing it for a year, and to be quite honest, more people have listened to it than I thought they would. But I really would like to get some listener feedback, and that way I can see if people want to can point out things that maybe I was wrong or inaccurate, because I want to be able to call out my own BS.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah.
No, I'll subscribe to you and I'll listen to you some more. My girlfriend was just like, "Oh, you need to shorten this and cut it up." I'm just like, "Shut up." For me, I kind of hate the criticism. I'm like my own worst enemy, but I know I need to listen to it, you know?
Right.
And trust me, there's a million, this is just my second episode, so I need to like change up a lot and stuff, but you know, you kind of grow from it. So I mean, that's kind of the good thing, just getting that feedback and stuff.
You definitely figure out your groove. My podcast started quite differently than it is now. So like at first I thought it was going to be more about like chronicling my journey through med school.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was enrolled in the classes that I would need to do the prerequisite courses that I would need to complete to go to med school.
Yeah.
And just with the adjustment of having a family, I ended up dropping those. And then I thought, well, this has to change a little bit. So it shifted into talking about what motivates the people that work in healthcare. And so far I have focused on doctors.
Yeah.
But
that's a really small section, or is it like group of people? I feel like.
Yeah, but I do want to focus more on like nurses and EMTs and even the system itself.
The healthcare.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got that. Yeah. So how is the education over in Minneapolis? Like, kind of give compare, I guess, Washington State to Minneapolis or Minnesota. How's the education over there? Do you feel like it's a little bit tougher? Do you feel like the education's better in those colleges?
That's an interesting question. I guess education wise,
because when we were in college, I felt like we just kind of just skimmed by the books and we just got by. So I'm just curious if Minneapolis actually puts in a little bit more effort in engagement. You know,
it's weird. I think I noticed I do feel like I got through most of undergrad. I worked really hard. I put in a lot of work, but I feel like I really studied just kind of like whenever. I didn't really have a strict set of rules or any systems to how I did it. But then once I started like doing chemistry and biology, I really had to like actually create some kind of system for myself to like when and how I'm going to study. I don't know if that's a function of the education system in Minnesota versus Washington, and rather than just the nature of studying the natural sciences. Overall, I've had really good experiences in my education in Minnesota.
Good professors.
And Washington too. For
that matter. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we went to a great school. I mean, I'm just speaking anecdotally. Just I felt like I just kind of got by, but I was also older too when I went to college, so. I think it's a mistake to bring kids into college like right when they're 18 for most of them, because I went in when I was 23 and I was just like, shit, I have, $50,000+ worth of loans. Like, there's a lot more on the line. A lot of these fucking kids are just getting high and drinking and stuff like that. They don't give a shit. If I was 18, I wouldn't give a shit either. I'd be doing the same. I would be a college dropout by 1920. Easily. I know for sure. I know myself, and I couldn't do it.
Sure. I guess two things to that. Personally, if I were to do it over again, I would have totally taken 2 or 3 years off between high school and college to just do more traveling. I have this like fantasy where I go to Italy and just meet some like random family that lives in like the middle of nowhere in Tuscany and just learn how to make like ravioli properly. Properly.
Did you start when you were 18?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, see, then I'm just a piece of shit kid. You actually, you actually got yourself somewhere, and you actually, made something of yourself. So.
Well, I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, I know.
And like my freshman year of college was so different from the others because it was really a lot of my peers and my dorm mates did really just like dick around the whole time.
But you're kind of a dweeb though, so you didn't
Well,
fit
yeah,
in.
yeah. That goes without saying.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I was actually like, to full disclosure, I was actually like a piss poor high school student. So when I did okay, but I could have done better. So when I got to college,
okay. I thought you were like literally like just poor. You were just like eating like cans of beans from the food bank and stuff like that. Okay, gotcha.
I made it through the Great Depression a little bit better than.
Okay,
than that,
gotcha. Yeah, but you just kind of skimmed by in high school.
Yeah, and then in college, like because of that, I was really motivated to actually like get A's.
Yeah, I think what really got my motivation is I worked at a steel company making, like $13 an hour, and I was excited to get a 50-cent raise like after my like year review. And then my eyes kind of opened when I saw there was a person who died. He got like some type of, I don't know, all the steel is going into the air and stuff, and it's a very dangerous working environment. So this guy retired, and he literally like died 2 weeks later.
Jeez.
And then it kind of opened my eyes a little bit, and I start seeing the people around me. And there was a guy who was working there for 15 years, and I think he capped out at like $24 an hour. And then I start realizing the other people that were working around me were like ex-felons. No offense to anybody there, but I just like kind of looked at that. I'm just like, I'm meant for bigger and better things. I might not have done it yet, but I'm going to go try. And that was like a huge eye-opener, because I thought to myself, I'll just do this forever and I'll die a miserable person. And I was just like getting by every week and just like drinking and partying it up and just blowing my paycheck and stuff like that. But I had this inner thing where I just wanted to just do better. And I said, fuck it, I'm going to go to college. And my boss, he kind of yelled at me, and he's just like, I forgot what exactly he said, but he's just kind of like, fuck you. It was like, whatever, get the fuck out of here. And I got sick when I put in my 2 weeks in. I got really sick, and it was from all that steel in the air. I got some type of bronchitis, like an acute bronchitis, and they fired me. And then I don't know, I started feeling better after that. I'm just like, all right, now I'm just on the right track. Even though I'm kind of in a shitty situation, I'm going to make it. And I just got myself in there, and things have been good ever since. So sometimes you need to look around you and look at the reality and saying, man, you're not in as good a place as you thought you would be. And then you could just change yourself and make yourself a lot better.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Was there ever a class action lawsuit taken against that company?
No, and I don't want to name the name of the company and stuff, but like just looking back now and just kind of having my eyes a little bit more open to business practices. I did get a degree in business, but being higher up in the business world at my company and stuff, I've noticed these certain things, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, there could have been a lot of lawsuits. The only hint I'll give is that the company originally made the steel for the Space Needle.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool, but that's the only cool thing about it. But anyways, going back to Minneapolis and stuff, just I don't know, give people some general details about the nightlife, or just I don't know, some cool places to hike, things like that. Like I don't know, I've never been there. I want to visit, so sure. Sell it to me.
So that's a hard sell because it gets cold as hell there.
We'll talk about that.
Well, okay, like last January, let's see, January 2019, it got down to like -35 with wind chill one day. It's horrible.
And we're not talking Celsius, huh?
No, we're not talking Celsius. We're talking Kelvin.
That'd be kind of a warm day, right? Yeah.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess to sell it to you, yeah, it does get pretty damn cold there. But if you like snow, there's plenty of that. It's in the winter, it's pretty cozy.
Yeah.
Just
everybody's kind of chilling in the cafes and chilling at home. The fire, the
lots
wood
of
fire, and stuff like that.
Warm drinks, stuff like that. The nightlife, I've actually enjoyed the nightlife in Minneapolis quite a bit. I mean, before we had a kid,
Are there any good like certain street or blocks? I mean, I know here we have like Capitol Hill, we have Ballard, and so are there like those little pocket sections of like those city? Okay.
Yeah, so the happening place at night, usually on Friday, Saturdays, is this neighborhood called Uptown. And it's kind of...
Is it historic? Or, I mean, I hear Uptown like everywhere, but is it just like their Uptown or whatever?
It's just Uptown. I don't think it's historic at all. But the streets that run through that neighborhood are like Hennepin Avenue, part of Lake Street, like Lake Street that's farther west.
Yeah.
Closer to Lake Calhoun. I say Lake Calhoun. Technically, I think it's still Bidet-Makaska. They renamed it a couple of years ago.
Was it a racist name? Did they cancel
I think it was.
They canceled it.
I think it was.
Is Calhoun a racist name?
I think I to be honest with you, I have.
If you say Calhoun 3 times, a Klan's hat will just go on to.
Oh, will it?
Oh yeah. 1, 2, 3. No, I'm just kidding. I'm scared to do it. No, I'm just messing with you. But yeah. So the name got canceled. Got changed to something else. Yeah.
Anyway, so like around the areas around the lakes are really nice and kind of the party spots. Some of the breweries are, my favorite ones are Lynn Lake Brewery.
Mm-hmm. Say that 3 times fast.
I can't.
Yeah, I know. Lynn Lake Brewery. Yeah.
And they like in the summer they open like their rooftop.
Okay.
So you can like get your beer inside and then go up, and there's a really awesome view of the Minneapolis skyline from up there.
Mm-hmm.
Another one of my favorite places is this Indian restaurant called India Palace.
Mm-hmm.
It is a sit-down place. It's a pretty small place, but they have some really awesome food.
Mm-hmm.
There's not so away from Uptown, closer to the U of M campus, or University of Minnesota.
Yeah.
The U of M campus in Northeast, which is like another kind of like more college party neighborhood, is it's called Surly's. It's just like a huge brewery that's in like a giant warehouse.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
And then they have like their own beers that they brew there, and then food and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're definitely. It's kind of the thing. I feel like it's been around for like a few years and stuff, but you kind of have your own bar in the brewery and stuff like that. Yeah, that's. I think that's pretty cool. You just kind of see everything. They sometimes have tours and little snacks and things like that. Yeah. That's the one amazing thing about these breweries is that they just like kill the bars because they make their own beer. You know, the supply chain is much lower, and they make awesome food. And it's just some of the dumbest thing. You're just like eating cranberries with pickles on top with Gouda cheese and stuff with walnuts. And you're like, what the hell is this? But it's so amazing, right? Yeah, and it's just like the most random thing. And it's like no one's ever going to sell. If I saw the menu, you know, like a couple of years before they start doing that, I'd be like, fuck that. That sounds disgusting. But then you're just like, all right, okay, I'll try it and stuff. And it's amazing. Like I love the experimentation with the craft beers, and they pair it and they do all those things and stuff like that. That's just like one amazing thing. And I heard Minneapolis has a ton of great breweries. I heard it's amazing over there.
Yeah.
I do.
Surly being one of them.
Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming a lot come out from over there because my buddy Daniel was telling me that like the breweries over in Seattle compare nothing to Minnesota. Like most places don't compare to Minnesota because it's just
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the supply chain, if they just get good products over there, or whatever it is, or if it's just a good transport station to distribute between New York and all the other kind of big cities around. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is like centrally located, so it's kind of like you don't have to transport. Right, if you're a brewery in Seattle, you don't have to transport however many 2,000 plus miles this country is. To New York. Yeah,
are they on the I-5 corridor, or is that a little bit more?
No, they aren't. So they're I-94.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Which I think I-94 either turns into or I think merges into I-90 somewhere.
Oh, excuse me, I-90, not I-5, I-90.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's the one that goes east to west. Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
I'm stupid, guys. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I can't say Surly.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Or no, Lynn Lake. That was the word.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know, right? So it gets cold. When are like the good peak seasons to be?
Oh, sure. Oh, and I guess like that kind of goes back to just like the nightlife. Sometimes Minneapolis does a lot of open streets. Maybe that's not super unique to Minneapolis, but they'll close.
But it's not here. No, they don't do it here, really.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, there's a Capitol Hill block party like once a year.
Oh, really?
Like,
okay.
Yeah, they charge you like $100. It's bullshit.
Seriously?
Yeah,
oh, that's crazy.
It's not like Bourbon Street or Fifth Avenue down in Texas or whatever.
Sure.
I think I have the name right, but yeah, where you could just walk and it's just kind of open and everybody's having a blast.
Yeah, you can just so they'll close the other major street that runs through Uptown, which is Lyndale Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll close that like a good portion of that, a couple miles of that road, and you can just walk up and down that whole area that includes Uptown and just go to all the different bars and restaurants that are there, and it is free to just walk.
Just walk, and you just have to probably show ID or something.
Yeah, and that I think happens in June. Of course, it got canceled this year, but there's another one on another avenue called Minnehaha, which is which is not. It's in a different part of town.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But it's the same thing. It's free to walk on there and walk up and down the street and.
I kind of wonder if the governors. I'm not sure what branch of if this is a state or a federal thing, but I'm assuming it's a state thing. But when it comes to the legalities of people being able to drink out in the street, and with COVID and everything going around and stuff, if Seattle opened up, a couple blocks for business and stuff like that, and everybody was social distancing and stuff, these bars could make a lot of their money back. It's summer right now. The weather's relatively good. Obviously, Seattle is kind of a crapshoot when it comes to the weather, but generally speaking, it's pretty good. Everybody could social distance and they could lay out the tables and stuff. You have these block parties and stuff. It would be perfect, except for okay, we only have a maximum occupancy of 25.
Sure.
And it's the most depressing looking bar, but you have these servers kind of going back and forth. I feel like if governors were smart enough, they would push in that direction, because I don't see what's wrong with drinking out in the street if it's confined or something like that. But it just seems like you need these permits, and it's only in special type of events where it will those will happen. But again, like Bourbon Street or Fifth Street down Texas and stuff, I think it's every weekend or something like that, or every evening and weekend they just open up and do it. So yeah, I don't know.
What city in Texas?
Is it Houston? Someone please in the comments section, please tell me. What's closer to the water, Houston or Austin?
Houston.
Yeah, I think it's Houston.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of right towards the bottom and stuff. My friend who lives down near there, he's actually a nurse down there now, but he was telling me all about it, and I've seen a lot of documentaries and little travel channels and stuff down there about it. So it seems pretty cool, and I don't know why. I mean, Vegas obviously is the big open spot where you could go in and out wherever you please and stuff like that. But that's Vegas. Or I wonder if it's all Nevada, because I've only been to Reno once when I was young, and then I've been to Vegas a handful of times. So pretty much all I know is Vegas. So
I've never been to Vegas.
Really?
No. Never been there. I'd like to, but that's not. I mean, I guess if I were to go to Nevada, I really like the outdoors and kind of the places that are in the middle of nowhere. I'd much rather see that.
Yeah, the Red Rock Mountains outside of it. That's a really cool spot. You see when you're flying in from Washington and stuff like that. You're kind of going down and. It's a pretty cool scene. It's a really pretty scene. A lot of places to hike around there. So pretty much how is the job market in Minneapolis? Are there a lot of available jobs? Is there a lot of poverty? Let's go into the economics a little bit.
Sure. So from my observation, there is a lot of work in Minneapolis. There are there are a ton of like retailers and grocery chains out there. So like Target is located, Target is headquartered in Minneapolis.
Oh,
now that's not to
yeah.
say that like, you know, if you're overqualified for like a regular like checker or restock kind of job, that's different. But there's a lot of opportunity out there in the retail sector if that's what you want to do.
What about like kind of mid and like upper scale jobs? Kind of more like management or like director, or not necessarily directors, but like marketing, IT, and stuff like that. Is there like a sector like here? You know how in Redmond and
I would assume that exists.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You're more in the health field, so
Yeah.
you probably kind of that's out of your vision,
right. And there are a lot of medical institutions in Minnesota. So Health Partners is out there. The Mayo Clinic.
Why is that? Do you know? Or?
I have no idea. I think the best explanation I've heard of that is Minnesota way back in the day used to be like the old Northwest, because that was the most the most northwesterly state. I mean, I'm talking a long time ago, probably like 19th century.
Yeah.
And I think when Minnesota became, or at least the Minneapolis, St. Paul area became more developed, there were a lot of injuries, and they needed a lot of doctors to.
Just everybody's dying in
Minnesota. I mean, don't quote me on this. I haven't actually verified this, but I think it was just like there were enough industrial workers there getting injured that it required more healthcare practitioners to be present in the area to treat people for those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so just by economies of scale, I think, just more the market was such that more doctors there to treat more people, and I think maybe the cost of starting your own practice was lower than other places, perhaps.
Is the cost of living, buying a house and stuff, is it pretty high? Do you feel like it's on par with Seattle? A lot lower?
A lot lower.
Oh, okay.
So you could... I should say I'm a horrible judge of what 300 square feet is. Like, obviously I know what 1 square foot is, but when people start saying like, oh, it's 800 square feet, I have no concept. I just have no concept of what that looks like.
I think right now, in my apartment we're at about 11 to 12 in that range.
Okay.
Oh, no. Yeah, 11 to 1200. Yeah, like 11 to 1200. Yeah.
There are a lot of, I would say, 1-bedroom apartments. I know you said houses, but I'll start with apartments because that's what I know. 1-bedroom apartments in Minneapolis are pretty affordable. I'd say probably like between $900 to $1,500, depending on what sort of how new the location is. Well, where the where
how close are you to downtown when you're speaking that?
We are pretty close.
Okay.
To downtown.
So if we're talking Seattle, it would be somewhere in the range of 19 to 3.
Yeah. Our place is a 2-bedroom, and it's like 900 square feet, and we only pay like maybe $1,185. I think that's what it is.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's crazy because that kind of, in Minneapolis, that kind of space for 2 bedrooms, I would say is probably closer to 2,000 or 2,000 plus.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Between maybe 1,900 and
we don't need to get too specific. Obviously, we're just talking generally and stuff. There's just probably someone in the comment section all mad and stuff. This guy is clearly wrong and all. He's just
I probably am.
Yeah, he's probably some leasing agent. This guy doesn't know shit, and he's just getting all mad.
But the housing in general, buying a house there is probably in the Midwest in general is a lot cheaper than on the coast. Yeah,
I shout out to Lexi, by the way. She lives over in Effingham, Michigan.
Okay.
Effingham, Michigan. There's literally an Effingham brewery over there, and I told her I'm going to visit over there and just have an Effingham beer because I don't know why it just sounded so amazing. But yeah, she's telling me she's buying houses for like around 100,000, like relatively around there, 2-story garage, everything. Like is she is a little bit outside of Detroit. I think like what you would think probably like a Clay Ellum or something like that from here. But yeah, but so I'm hour and a half or something like that. But I heard just generally the Midwest is housing prices are pretty good, but the job it kind of balances with the jobs. Obviously, you have like a supply and demand.
Well, it's interesting how like I just think everything is. A lot of things are proportional, right? So if you live in Seattle, the cost of living is higher, but you were probably paid more.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, average. Definitely, yeah.
So like at the end of the day, and then in the Midwest, you know, it's the opposite. So you paid less, but the cost of living is lower.
It is lower, yeah.
So kind of at the end of the day, it's kind of like, are you really gaining anything?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's a cost benefit analysis to it. I tried convincing my boss it didn't work, but I wanted to work remotely since I'm a marketer.
Sure.
And I just wanted to work remotely in Thailand, and in Thailand, a month's rent there is like maybe $300 or whatever. And I'd just be living just like the life and stuff, like some rich guy making just like what would be like an average salary, just like around here and stuff. Maybe a little bit more, a little less, depending on who you are. But that's the ultimate goal. And I'm glad we're kind of. I think one positive thing from the COVID-19 thing that we're going through is that we. I think remote work is being a little bit more appreciated.
I hope so.
I hope to God. I know, right? Because everything that I do can be done through a computer. Give me a project management, give me on a project management software, tell me what I need to do. I'll get that shit done, as soon as I can. So, I mean, it's stuff like that. And I believe we're starting to see it a little bit more because most jobs are posted online or remote or, socially distanced or kind of or hybrid at least. But
no, I hope that's something that changes. I mean, we'll probably talk a little bit more about this in a bit, but one thing that I did a podcast on COVID, and
we could just go into COVID. Okay. Yeah, why not? Yeah, let's just go into it.
COVID's great.
Yeah, right.
Let's go.
Taste
into it.
Amazing. It takes your breath away.
Taste the COVID. Takes your breath away.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope that one thing that changes from this is that there is a greater sense of trust that companies give their employees.
Yeah.
I think we have a very, well, at least we did pre-COVID, had a very, 19th century kind of antiquated notion of work where you go to a location and you, maybe you clock in. Yeah. There's some kind of version of clocking in and clocking out.
Yeah.
And you're there, you're under the supervision of your employer.
Superior, yeah.
And then you go home. And it's kind of, I guess, like, when you're working for somebody else. Ancient. Yeah, it's antiquated. And when you're working for somebody else, you kind of feel, you don't really feel like an adult 100%. I guess. But I think that depends on what you're doing, what your skill level is.
Of course. Obviously, there needs... It generally speaking, I feel like most of the people that need to be on site are like operations. I think operations is one of the main people. I'm in marketing, so I feel like it's pointless. I feel like for me, it should be a little bit of a hybrid position, as in... I have my meetings, I kind of come up with a plan, we'll leave and I'll execute it, and we'll kind of bounce back and forth just to have those updates and meetings and stuff like that. But no, this is one thing that is kind of driving me crazy, and I'm not this person that is built for the Monday through Friday to 8 to 5, because I'm a person who wants to do something that I enjoy and I want to do it all the time. but I don't want to be tied down. Like the second, and my mom is probably going to listen to this or whatever, but the second someone tells me to do something, I will say F you, and I will do the opposite just to spite you. And it's just this inner psychological thing. I don't know. Maybe my mom beat me. I don't know what she did.
You just said she was going to listen to this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, now I'm just trying to get like just broadcasted. So it just people, my mother, no, I'm just kidding. My mom didn't beat me, but, I don't know. It's always been just rooted into me. Yeah. Just like, I want to do what I want to do. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time. Having the critique and having people, they're right some of the times, and I should take that into consideration. But my inner self's like, fuck you. Yeah. Like I'm not. Yeah.
I think that's. I don't know. We'll say that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like
the mother beating me part, or no. I'm just kidding.
I didn't realize this was going to be a therapy session.
I know. That's why I'm having these podcasts. I'm just trying to have someone just kind of configure me back together. COVID really broke me. So.
Yeah, COVID broke everyone.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, well, yeah, no.
Going back to the prehistoric kind of 8 to 5.
Yeah, and I guess my I have a Russian friend. Okay, let's go back.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the people that won't be able to do that are retail, and healthcare. Some healthcare won't. Most healthcare probably won't.
Well, the touch and feel retail, because you also have retail on Amazon as well. You have e-commerce.
Yeah, you do. And I'm gonna make a huge assumption.
That's fine.
Say that retail jobs aren't the best sort of job to like get ahead financially.
Oh my god.
Oh no. I said the wrong thing.
You're just going to have a bunch of retail people just attack me in the comment section now. You just ruined me.
Well, they can attack me.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Jack Johannessen, his addresses. No.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. No, I definitely agree. I think
because you have to go. Right.
Well,
you have to go. You actually have to report to work. And one thing, especially being a parent, one thing that occurred to me as a huge complication of working retail. Plenty of a lot of people work retail.
Yeah.
It's inevitable that some of those people are going to be parents. So if you're either a single mom or a single dad or both the parents work retail, or even if only one works retail, you still have to go to work. And COVID has shut down a lot of daycare centers and schools, or at least the response to COVID has shut down a lot of
I'll push back a little bit on the daycare, because it might be for this state. I don't know about other states. My roommate does work in a daycare, and there are certain requirements that you will be able they don't have to follow as many rules.
Sure.
and they're allowed to continue operating. I think it was if the parents work in a what do you call not a necessary job, a required,
like essential service.
An essential service job, then they are able to take care for them. So there are I don't know, this is just Washington State I'm talking about. I don't know about any other states. So.
Yeah, I my impression is that in Minnesota, at least in the beginning, like in March, just because we didn't know how serious this is going. We still don't know how serious this is actually going to end up being.
I know, it's still kind of a mystery. Yeah, there's a lot of question marks on it.
Yeah, there are a lot of question marks on this, and I guess anyway, my point is that if you're supposed to physically go to your job but you can't because you don't have anybody to look after your child, you're kind of screwed.
In a sense, I don't like to necessarily go into these arguments, because sometimes we just always immediately go into the worst case scenario. And I
there's a whole gradient of people's such different situations.
Yeah, and I know some of these people, they do get funding through the state or local, federal, or state government. And, some of these people, single moms, do have grandmothers and all that other stuff. So I'm not disagreeing with you, sure. But I feel like it is kind of maybe a fallacy that it seems like every argument they're like, oh, but there are these people that are this and that, and they kind of paint this worst scenario situation. I was like, you've scoped it down to like 0.000001% of it, and now you're going to give this general rule of single moms that can't take care of themselves and stuff like that. So I agree. Like I'm kind of a pessimist where no matter what happens, no matter what policy is made, someone's going to get screwed no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what.
And so I think that the best thing to do is try to reach out to them through more of the local services, because if you have this huge structure that kind of overlooks the population, what else is left but your neighbor? That's just kind of what I think. But
So what I was gonna say about,
before I really interrupted.
No, it's okay. No, just going off the retail thing. One of my Russian friends he works in like urban development.
Okay.
And he has an interesting hypothesis that that COVID will exacerbate income inequality, if it hasn't already, in the sense that the people that are either skilled or privileged enough to have jobs, like office jobs where they can actually take their jobs remotely,
or the bartenders and wait staff and all that stuff. Yeah.
Will flock to the suburbs, and who will be left are, I should say not necessarily retail workers, but who will be left in the inner cities that are more concentrated just by design will be people that, for whatever reason.
So the inner city people are going to be going out to the country, burbs and country, right?
Yeah. For whatever reason, can't afford to actually move out of the city, where also the concentration of pathogens is going to be highest.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like a revert to how some of America's cities were in the late 60s, early 70s before that demographic kind of reversed.
Yeah, I do think that we are kind of getting cluttered a little bit. I think we're getting too cluttered, especially in Seattle. And there was some study. I'm hoping for my future channels that I'll be able to kind of pop up some of these studies that I have found, rather than just me kind of explaining it. Just like, because I'm horrible at explaining things that are just randomly in my head that I saw once online. But
on 4chan.
I know, right? Yeah. Spencer, are you on those alt-right boards again? Shout out to 4chan. But there was a study where it showed they take these groups of people, and the bigger the group, the people, the higher the stress levels are. And so people are theorizing that the bigger the city, it kind of correlates to more crime, more violence, and things like that. And the more spread out, like in the country, it's all like kind of pretty chill and stuff like that. So I do believe that we can be a little too close sometimes. I mean, if you've ever been downtown in a big city, it kind of sucks. I mean, noise level wise.
Oh, heck yeah.
And you're kind of frustrated. You're walking through. There's a fucking homeless man. You're walking over him and stuff. Oh, shit, don't step on that needle. You're just kind of going through, hey, can I get $10? And fuck you, man. I'm just trying to get to work and stuff. You're in this long-ass line in Starbucks for a coffee and everything. And you're like, fucking 5 minutes later, I'm starving to death. I'm like, fucking, I'm going to skip breakfast. And it just repeats this damn cycle.
I would tell that person to leave their house earlier.
And then maybe move.
Time management skills.
I know. It's like, why are you living around a bunch of homeless people? Well, it's just like Seattle. It's like Seattle. I mean, if you've seen it, and a lot of people are kind of have argued for and against the Seattle is Dying documentary, but Seattle's scary.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't been down to downtown Seattle in a few years. I don't know if we've been going while we're here.
Yeah.
I don't think the problem in Minneapolis with homeless people is nearly as bad as it is in Seattle, but it's definitely like.
Yeah, talk about Minneapolis. Screw Seattle. What's like? How is it like down there?
It's just in terms of the
homeless. Yeah, just like kind of. Just is it dirty? Is it clean? Is it relatively?
I would say Minneapolis is actually a pretty clean city.
Okay.
Like relative to Chicago, and no offense to anyone from Chicago, I actually really like Chicago a lot. I kind of like that big city vibe, but Minneapolis is pretty clean, and maybe that's just a function of there being fewer people. But there are definitely homeless people around. I'd say
I feel like it's inevitable in a big city.
Yeah, and I think it's getting worse. So one thing with Minneapolis that we had a couple years ago was this tent city that popped up on like, I'm trying to remember. It was on Franklin Avenue for those of you who are familiar with
some in the comments
Minneapolis.
Section.
But it was like, I can't remember the cross street, but it was really close to one of the light rail stations that's like I guess it's like further west.
Okay.
I guess like on this particular street.
Yeah.
And
we're talking about Minneapolis, right?
Yeah,
okay.
In Minneapolis.
Just making sure.
Yeah, and there was this tent city that like popped up and like really grew in this particular area, and there were a lot of problems with drugs.
Of course, yeah. It kind of inevitably happens.
Yeah, drugs, mental illness. I'd have to verify. I don't know if there were any deaths just like by just people that passed away by natural causes or murders.
Yeah.
And there were definitely kids that were living in this place, which was particularly sad.
No, like when you say kids, like how old do you think?
Like minors, under 18.
Like
I swear I saw
under
kids,
14.
Yeah, I swear I saw kids that were probably like 5 or 6.
Jesus.
Yeah. It was really bad, and fortunately, the city built like some kind of temporary housing for these people. And for some reason, when it was ready and constructed, they didn't want to leave. I don't know how they ended up getting everybody. Like, I don't know how they ended up forcing everybody to evacuate
they didn't want to
the
leave
area.
Minneapolis, or they didn't want to leave.
They didn't want to leave the tent village.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
But it's gone now. That area has been like fenced up for a while, and the grass is like way overgrown over there. They haven't mowed it or anything. Yeah. I don't know if that's because they don't have a lawnmower
to cut it down.
Well, I don't know if that's because there's like paraphernalia that they just like have to find first and like actually like contain properly.
So what I know is there are companies like Serpro and a lot of these restoration companies that do biohazard cleanup.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So the city will contract them out and pay them prevailing wage. And you're basically like a glorified like cleaning person.
Sure.
And you get paid like $30-$40 an hour for literally like picking up needles, and you're in this like hazmat suit, and you just kind of have like what are those things where you kind of like flip your fingers and stuff. It's like a little claw, and you pick it up. Like, a little hand claw extender thing. Yeah, and that's what they do. So they probably just fence it off, and it's obviously it's just probably some clothes owned by the state or something like that, and they probably just left it and forgot about it. They probably have other issues to worry about. Obviously, right now with the George Floyd death, and that's something we definitely go into just because you lived about a mile away from there. Yeah. So
just before that, can I make one more thing about?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So they built this temporary housing for these homeless people, and I do think they actually ended up being evacuated, and they ended up moving there. But another thing that the pandemic has done is they cannot congregate at these Like, I will say that Minneapolis is like very good at being like charitable. So like the church that like I go to, the Basilica of St. Mary, and like a lot of other organizations do a lot of work with homeless people, and there are a lot of shelters, but those shelters have been shut down, so they don't really have anywhere else to go but back to the streets. And there is another tent city that's kind of popping up, more or less in that same area.
They just kind of migrate.
Yeah.
The funny thing about homeless people is that some of them just want to be there. It's the weirdest thing. I mean, I've seen kids that just like do it as well. They want to be on the street.
I don't know, man. I've never met somebody that was homeless, like either during or after being homeless. It's such a interesting problem because I
feel like the people you meet after they were homeless are generally people who have like fought to recover. I think these people kind of become complacent.
I don't know. I mean, if you're mentally ill and on drugs, it's probably a completely, like, totally different reality.
Yeah. Obviously, the drugs and everything else. But yeah, the drug kind of just brings that comfort. Yeah. And if you have that drug and you have that comfort, all the other bullshit outside just like went really bad. But like having the homeless people, and you're saying it gets really cold over there. I'm assuming do they flock away? Obviously, you probably have like homeless shelters or things like that.
Yeah, so they do, and it does get cold there. I think they just tend to flock to homeless shelters. I definitely see fewer homeless people during the winter. So they must go somewhere.
Well, I mean, you see California too, and California is like pretty crazy and stuff. Skid Row is like definitely a good example, and I've been around there and stuff. But it's a good haven. I mean, it's always generally pretty warm. Yeah. I don't know if it like gets worse if you go down to San Diego. I know LA and San Francisco are really bad. Portland's kind of bad too, but Portland's always just kind of raining. It's always like kind of drizzling. It gets like a little temperate. Warm. Yeah. It might snow a little bit, but it's not as bad as what Minneapolis is. Like it's just frozen like half the year.
-20 in the winter and like 90+ in the summer.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's a weird thing, and I don't know what the solution is. A lot of it is drugs, but the war on drugs is kind of failing us. Yeah. And the war on poverty, or the war on homelessness, is failing us too.
There's a war on everything.
Yeah, I know.
I heard there's a war on COVID.
There's a war on COVID, and it's like even the experts, the president, and everybody else, left, right. This isn't even like it's no one knows anything.
Yeah, and I would encourage people to kind of get away from the narrative that people are homeless because they are lazy. I mean,
I generally believe, and I've met a lot of people that were post-homeless. Mm-hmm. Those are the people who definitely want to get out. Sure. And I'm saying the people that like kind of want to be. What I meant by that was like people, they just become kind of accustomed to that lifestyle. The mentally ill and kind of the drug addict people. I don't. If anybody, because we hired at that steel factory, we had a few homeless people that worked for us. They literally slept on the side of the building. They made this little tent. We kind of were like, okay, whatever. The guy went to a laundromat, just did his clothes every day. He finally got an apartment and stuff. Like I saw someone literally build himself up, and good for him. Even though I hate that place, he built himself up and stuff. I mean, those people obviously aren't the ones who are trying to fight to get out of it. If there's someone who came up to me, not asking, for $1, but just said, "Hey, can you give me an opportunity at a job? Can you help me out and get by and stuff like that?" If he proves himself, I would help him until he gets himself on the feet. I know there are people who are like struggling with that. Pretty much. I don't know what the percentage. 90% of the people who, 90% of people are probably, drug addicts, mentally ill. A lot of them are vets as well too.
Which is
which kind of combines as well. So
I don't know. Like I it's not really the same as being homeless, but I definitely have some friends that are just like more nomadic, like they jump trains and shit.
I've seen that. Yeah,
and that's cool. Just like, I don't know, that's just how they live their life. You
Yeah,
know, not everybody has to live in a house or an apartment with, you know, roommates or family. I guess there are so many different ways to live your life, drugs and mental illness aside, because that's something that, I don't know, a mental illness for sure you can't help, and some people are just driven to taking drugs.
Definitely. I've seen many different drugs affect many different people, and it's a really sad thing. And we had a local homeless person in my old city. His name was Kelly, and it was just kind of sad seeing him. He's been homeless for 30 years.
Oh, jeez.
That was the last time I talked to him, which was many years ago. So, God knows how long now. But let's move into COVID. Or excuse me, let's move into George Floyd.
Yeah. So
let's start from the beginning, because I know you were a mile away. Let's kind of ease into it, like the day it happened, and kind of move on from there. So, things were pretty calm.
Yeah, I will say it really took me by surprise. I am not on a lot of social media, like personally, like my podcast is. Yeah. But I'm not somebody that's just gonna like sit there and scroll,
share and retweet everything.
Yeah, like I have better things to do with my life than to be on social media. It's actually kind of...
You're an adult. You're an actually functioning adult that has a kid and a wife that you have to take care of. Wow, you're like more mature than 90% of this planet.
I don't know about that. Yeah. That's my wife.
I
know. I have a theory that men don't mature past 16, like mentally.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. All the shit that happens in here, I just have to like contain myself because society looks down on it, and I won't get a paycheck. So that's
exactly. You can't make like a penis joke every 10 minutes.
I guess you can on this podcast.
Actually, we can. No, these microphones kind of look like dicks.
Yeah, they kind of do. Yeah, the SM7B, the Shure SM7B, ladies and gentlemen.
They each come with 2 pairs of tennis balls that you can hang at the end.
Yeah, that's perfect
to simulate.
Yes, we got it.
We know
that was a bad one.
Yeah.
So
terrible.
George Floyd.
So it really took me by surprise because we were pretty distracted. Memorial Day weekend, my daughter was teething, and if any of you know anything about kids teething, it's kind of a pain in the neck. Like, there are a lot of weird symptoms with teething, such as like runny nose, fever, diarrhea. I mean, there are a lot more than
probably
those
infections
3.
And stuff like that. Yeah.
So we were dealing with that, and I think I heard that night or the next day.
The night it happened.
Yeah, because I think he was killed like in the afternoon or the evening.
From what I saw in the video, it definitely looked like the afternoon.
And I don't know, my wife is on Facebook, so like I hear, like, she tells me things that are happening around, at least on social media. Mm-hmm. And I think she told me about it, either that night or the next day. So that would have been, it was Memorial Day, so that would have been the following Tuesday, the following Tuesday. And I'll say I haven't watched any of the videos, but I heard about it and I thought, like, my initial impressions were like, this is horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
And also, Minneapolis police have had quite a few since we've been living in Minneapolis. There have been, I say a lot, but it's like 5. It's 5 too many. High profile shootings.
Like widely publicized. Yeah.
So most of you guys are probably familiar with Philando Castile.
Yes. Yeah.
He was shot in his car by an officer with his, I think, girlfriend and child.
Yes, I've seen that video.
I did see that video too.
Yeah, this is a bad one. Yeah.
And then there was another incident where there was a woman that called the police, and they responded to, I can't remember what she even called them for, but they responded, and she went up to the back of the she went to the alley where the Minneapolis Police Department drives like these Ford SUVs. She went up behind the car, and I think she tapped the side of it to get their attention, which don't do that.
It was late at night too, you said?
I think so. It was late at night. I mean, don't do that just because of what ended up happening to her, but just don't do that. And just don't do that.
Are the alleys kind of sketchy?
Some of them are.
Yeah. Okay.
Some of them are. I don't know where she lived, but basically, she tapped the side of the car. I think it freaked out both officers, and when she walked up to the side of the window, one of them leaned past their partner and shot her.
Oh God! Yeah.
And and then George Floyd. So I said 5. I can only name 3.
Yeah.
I know there are others.
Yeah.
Let's just say this. They are stories that make the Minneapolis Police Department and the maybe some of the other police departments in the area look bad.
Yeah.
For whatever,
Yeah.
For an obvious or not so obvious reason.
Yeah.
Now, I honestly thought this would kind of blow over.
Well, before that, I'm not sure what was before or after. So you had the guy who was jogging.
Say that again?
The guy who was jogging, and the guys drove the truck. They ran him down and basically shot him while he was jogging. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't know who you're talking about.
I'm spacing on the names. There's been so much happening between then and there. It's funny. 1 week will go by and so many things are happening.
I know.
You just kind of forget. But
1 week in 2020 feels like a month.
Yeah, exactly. It really does, especially with the COVID stuff, because you're just staring at the computer the whole time. I mean, generally for the most part, because you're stuck inside.
Right.
But there was that, and I know the Wendy's incident.
And that was in Georgia. That was in Atlanta.
That was in Atlanta. No, I'm saying, but these high profile stories.
Yeah. I will say the thing that happened in Atlanta is fucked up too, but also everybody is so hyped up with everything that anytime the police fuck up, it's gonna be on a camera and on social media.
Ahmaud Arbery. Yeah, he was a guy. He was an unarmed black man. Guy. I think it was 2 or 3 white guys in 2 trucks. They basically ran him down, pulled out a gun.
They weren't even they weren't cops.
They weren't cops. No. But
people.
that was kind of the big headline story at first. And George Floyd basically kind of covered everything.
Sure.
Because the Atlanta one, people kind of forgot about that one. But the George Floyd has the other ones were kind of controversial. There was a lot of things in play. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying they were justified, but I'm saying there was a lot of other factors. The George Floyd is that knee on his neck. It can't be more solid than that. That's just
the evidence is there.
It was a long 45-50 second video where it's just fuck, get off. You're the whole time you're saying that to yourself.
Yeah. And I don't. So
what happened?
So Tuesday. Yeah. So what? Monday evening, Tuesday night, I heard about this, and then it's hard for me because these kind of things cause a lot of, especially Philando Castile, cause a lot of outrage, and that sparked protests too.
Mm-hmm. But not to the degree.
But not to this degree, and I really thought it would be more of the same stuff. And then it was funny, Wednesday night, I was about to go to bed, and it was a pretty nice evening. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was pretty clear. And I thought I heard fireworks or just stuff that sounded like thunder. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really weird because it was completely clear, but I really didn't think much of it. So I went to bed. And then the next morning I get up and I'm working, and my wife comes out of the office and she says, Did you hear there were like, or she didn't say did you hear? She said there were huge riots last night on Lake Street. So I like went on Google and looked that up, and I saw that they like burned, like this crowd essentially burned down a bunch of buildings
like
on this
stores,
area on
yeah.
Lake Street, which is so I guess some background on Lake Street too is I will say Lake Street is pretty sketchy. I think it's always been pretty sketchy. The area of Lake Street in Uptown and by the lake is nice, but it's like if you're on the east side of 35W, which is the interstate that runs north-south through the city, that area is just like, it's not the best area to be. It's definitely an area. It's not an area you want to be at night. I mean, it's really not an area you want to be at all. I remember one time my wife and I and a friend of ours were going to go volunteer at this like crisis nursery thing, which is basically, it's a service for families where they can like drop off their kids if they're going through like domestic violence, like divorce, or have any other severe stuff like that they need to deal with. So they're able to have some kind of childcare for I think 3 to 2 days. And so we were going to go volunteer at this organization and help the staff like prepare snacks for the kids.
Yeah.
So we went to the Cub Foods that's in this parking lot next to the Target that got like absolutely destroyed during the riots.
Yeah. Have you seen those videos
of the riots?
Of no, people looting that Target. Just
a few, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
weird because that was also the Target I went to a lot as a kid, because my old house isn't on Lake Street, but it's like close enough that was the closest Target.
Yeah.
And it's kind of too bad too. Target like just gave that store a huge facelift. They clearly invested a lot in that store, and
it just got wrecked.
Yeah, it just all got wrecked.
Oh God.
So anyway, we went to the Cub Foods. It's just like a grocery chain in the Twin Cities. So we went and got some, I think, bagels and grapes. And the three of us are walking back to our car, like my wife and I's car, and there's this homeless guy like staggering around in the parking lot. And he doesn't look good. Like his eyes are bloodshot and everything. So I approached him but kept my distance.
Yeah.
Like probably more than 10 feet.
Yeah. Social distance, guys.
Yeah. This I made social distancing cool.
Yeah.
And I shit you not, this guy looks at me and he just like looks down at the ground and he just hurls. He just like threw up.
Oh wow.
A lot. And I was like, and again, I'm at a distance, so I'm like, "Sir, are you okay?" And he looks at me and he just goes, "Fuck you." And he just walks away. And I'm like, okay.
So much for being a good citizen.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Fuck you too.
So
why did I tell that story? So
I love this story though.
Lake Street has always been just like a really
It's rough.
scuzzy area.
Yeah, it's rough.
And so that part is what got burned down. And the third precinct police building is also there too. So that building wasn't like completely torn down, but it was definitely like the front of it was definitely
just fucked up.
Yeah,
stuff.
fucked up. There's a liquor store across the street from there that got burned down. There's an auto parts across the street from the liquor store, diagonal from the third precinct, that had to get torn down.
Yeah.
There's an Arby's nearby also that got torn down. And I think like some of this stuff it's not because they like burned to the ground completely, but they got burned enough that the structures are no longer safe and salvageable, so they just had to tear them down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I see this and we're like, holy crap, that's crazy. And then we immediately think like, oh, our daughter her nanny lives in a really nice, like her nanny lives in a good area, but it is like a few blocks south of us. And we thought that the rioters were kind of moving east to west, like toward the lake.
Gotcha.
And our nanny lives pretty close to the lake.
Yeah.
So we were thinking like, oh, should we go and get her? But I think the police got kind of sort of a control of the situation, at least on Thursday morning. Of that. So we didn't go and get her, but we decided to just like pack up stuff in our car and leave. So we finished the workday, and then we packed things up in our car, and then we went and got our daughter, and then we went to a friend's that lives in a suburb called Brooklyn Park that's north of Minneapolis. We stayed there the whole weekend until Monday. And the scariest, so like COVID, or like with COVID, we all have to be really careful about not only what we see on social media and what we see on TV, like national news, local news,
the fake
whatever.
News. Yeah.
You spend too much time on 4chan.
Oh my god!
I'm just kidding.
I spend too much time online. I'm a marketer, so
I can neither confirm nor deny that Spencer spends any time on 4chan.
But you're saying like the fake news, or like the news and social media.
Man,
and stuff
I
like
think
that,
so. There are domestic forces official and unofficial, that spread a lot of bullshit.
Yeah,
there are a lot of foreign forces, probably official and unofficial too, that spread a lot of bullshit. So we are thinking that there are rioters and there are people that are protesting the actual killing,
throwing up signs, and being
being peaceful, doing what the First Amendment allows us to do. Then there are people rioting, there are looters, and then we're getting these reports that there are all kinds of people coming from out of state to Minneapolis just to take advantage of the chaos. And these people range from white supremacists, Minnesota and other militia groups, so 3% Oath Keepers.
Just quick rundown of 3% Oath Keepers. What are they?
So the 3%. Oh man,
the 3%, the one you know. You don't need to. I don't need to.
As far as I know, the 3% are just like a militia group. I don't know if they're a hate group.
Yeah.
I don't think they would. I don't think the 3% themselves would actually classify themselves as a hate group.
Yeah.
But they're just a militia group.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we're also hearing that like drug cartels are also
just coming by. And
it's just coming by just to
their shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then like Antifa.
Of course. Yeah, that's kind of the big mainstream one.
Or other like just other kind of like anarchist groups. We heard that there were a lot of that people saw like unmarked cars driving around. I personally never saw any of those, but also we were like in one of the suburbs. And then we also heard that kind of like when things were sort of dying down, that there were that people saw skinheads like putting like water bottles full of gasoline into bushes, I think with the intention of
they're just trying to like kind of make them look worse, like people grab them like anarchists grab them and they burn more shit down,
or I guess I don't know what the tactic was there. They're
kind of like indirectly manipulating the narrative of the media.
But all of this, I'm sure some of this is true. I'm also sure that some of this was false or just either hearsay
speculation or bullshit.
People get really like over. Okay, so there was an incident at Central a couple years ago where there was like supposedly an active shooter on campus.
Yes. Yes.
And Spencer can probably speak to this too. And I think what ended up happening was somebody got freaked out because an ROTC member was walking around with their...
It's one of like the plastic AKs that they carry around, right?
But I didn't hear that. I thought it was like he was walking around with a bag. Just some kind of black bag.
Well, but so they have their kind of like...
You'd be stupid to walk around even with a fake gun.
Well, yeah, they have these like fake AKs. And so in between, like right next to 18th Street, there's that kind of like dirt mound, like grass field and stuff.
Yeah.
They do a lot of their practices there. So what I heard is that someone was, not thinking about it and stuff, just walking through the halls and stuff. And yeah, he was...
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know. Before that, there was something about a student heard like a pop in Lind Hall, which is like for the
physics hall,
the physics building, which I don't know, could have been anything.
Yeah.
And so I think
just maybe a lesson on physics. Shot a bullet. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know what happened, but like basically, this person, I've never listened to any of the like 911 recordings or like reading the transcripts but essentially the police were called to what they thought was an active shooter on the campus of Central Washington University. And a lot of people so the school themselves tweeted out that there was a report of an active shooter, and that
the emails came out super quickly. Yeah,
and
because I'm still on the email. Yeah, it was
I should say too, none of this happened while either of us were students.
This was like a year after, maybe 2 years or something like that.
So I'm in Minneapolis hearing about this from a friend, and my friend is telling me that a couple people were shot, and that they were all in like the student union building.
Yeah.
And then another friend of mine was telling me the same stuff. Now, the funny thing is that all of this actually turned out to be false. None of this actually happened.
Yeah.
Yes, the police were called. There was no active shooter, and there weren't people that were actually shot.
Yeah.
One of my friends said that let me back up. One of my friends told me that a friend of hers was perpetuating a lot of the false narrative on social media.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, I don't think it was just that one person, but there were
a few people that I saw on social media that were, you could kind of tell when you see people on social media, they're like a little too invested, because when you see yourself on Facebook or just social media in general, and I'm pretty vested into it just because it's my job and stuff. So I kind of see the people who are putting a little bit too much effort and stuff. And it's like, it's turning more into like you're working for something, you're working towards that narrative and stuff. Like either you are way too invested into that, or you have a reason behind this and stuff. Yeah.
So this friend of my friend got just like overexcited, and I asked my friend like why you should tell this person next time something like this happens, maybe you should think about thinking or verifying stuff before you put stuff online.
Yeah.
And my friend said,
I mean, of course, but no one does that anymore. It's clickbait. You know, things like the headlines and stuff.
Well, not only does nobody do that, but my friend said, "Oh, if I had confronted her about it, she would have gotten all upset and accused me of bullying." So how does this relate to what happened in Minneapolis?
Okay.
There are a lot of people, I think, that just get like way overexcited about stuff.
Yes.
And especially like, okay, a fake active shooter is one thing, but like the situation in Minneapolis really did feel like it was becoming life and death, and that fight or flight response in humans, just because we have flawed brains, we're all subject to errors and biases that we just.
And we have an election coming up too, so
Yeah,
things
yeah,
are really heating up.
Which hasn't even happened yet, which makes things.
Yeah,
great.
you think that it's crazy now?
Yeah, you think it's crazy now.
Wait for a few
till
more months.
November.
Oh God, yeah, I know. I just.
Yeah, I think I might go put myself in cryogenic sleep.
Yeah, I know
the next
exactly,
2
right?
years.
Yeah.
And anyway, I swear, like Saturday, I don't remember. I think it was like May 30th. There was just like this really. It was the first night of the curfews, and there was this really like heavy feeling of like the fog of war in the air. Everybody was like on edge.
The tension.
And I will never forget. We had just gotten our daughter to sleep, and my wife and I were just like laying there in bed, and it's about 8:00, and we just hear a bunch of helicopters fly over going south towards Minneapolis, and I was just thinking like, okay, like here it goes. And what
kind of helicopters are they? Like news, or are they like Blackhawks?
I think they were Blackhawks.
Okay, yeah, because when I was down in LA at the time, and I saw a few Blackhawks, it was crazy.
I saw the video you sent me.
Yeah, I know, right?
But I've never been in the military. I don't know if they were Blackhawks or not. So, but anyway, we like I don't know. Call me paranoid, but we had our essentials packed up and in the living room ready to go if we had to leave. Like both of us slept in clothes. Like we basically like were ready.
You kind of evacuated.
Well, yeah, like the only thing we had to do was like put clothes on our daughter and then just like throw everything in our car and get the hell out of there.
And how old's your daughter at the time?
My daughter's 15 months now. But at the time, I mean, basically she was.
Yeah, gotcha.
She's just over
a little over a year. Yeah.
So we were just sitting there thinking like, okay, if we hear that there's stuff going on in the suburb that's like just south of us, we're gonna pack up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. It's pretty scary shit.
Yeah.
But
did you see any of the writing? Did you see experience much, or were you just kind of hidden? Did you? I'm assuming you heard.
We heard it, and I definitely saw the aftermath because we went down there when we went home on the following Tuesday, just to go look at Lake Street. A lot of stuff burned, a lot of graffiti, a lot of broken stuff, destroyed shops, and things like barricades and things like that. I mean, I just like, even if we didn't have a kid, even if I was single, like I'm just not.
You're
not somebody to riot. You know? I'm somebody to protest, but not to. Do stuff like that. Although the interesting thing about rioting, and I'm not condoning it at all, but I have heard the argument that.
But no, just kidding. Yeah.
Well, BUTT.
Yeah, I know, right?
I have heard that the only thing that's going to get the government's attention, other than just like signs that people can ignore, is money, aka property damage.
Where do you think, in your opinion, the balance is? Obviously throwing up signs. Have you been to Washington D.C.?
I used to live there for a summer.
Yeah, I was talking to Leon about it because he hasn't been there, and it's basically like every block you go, there's just some weird random protest, just always a protest, and so and people are holding up signs. And realistically, no one's giving a shit, really.
Yeah.
But where do you think the protest turns into detriment? As in, like, detriment for their cause, not detriment to their society. Where do you think that where's that line where it's effective? You know?
Yeah.
Hard question, huh?
No, I just don't know.
Yeah.
Because...
I mean, obviously we have voting.
Yeah, obviously we have voting, and now with social media, like people can be convinced to take certain actions like in the background without tipping trash cans over and setting things on fire.
Yeah. Because I saw a study, and it shows that protesting makes society lean more right because they are sick of the destruction. Sure. They're getting pushback, and I know probably a good portion of these people vote Democrat. Do you feel like these riots have pushed you a little bit more to the right? Do you feel like you've seen more of a reason to have a gun? Do you feel like things have pushed you in a direction, or do you feel like you're kind of the same?
The only thing that these riots have, to what you've just asked me, that these riots have made me do is pushed me more to own a gun. And it's funny you say that, because like even before COVID, I was going to take a class at one of the
just a gun
clubs.
safety course.
Yeah,
or
just like a
like
gun
that.
safety course,
Mm-hmm.
just because I think it's a perfectly sane and reasonable thing to know how to do.
Mm-hmm. Gun sales are going through the roof right now.
Yeah, I bet they.
Yeah,
I bet they have. But it's more for. It's interesting. That's an interesting question, phrasing it as, would I buy a gun for the riots? I think it's more of, would I buy a gun for...
Do you think it's happening in family?
I think it's more for family, and I also think it's more for just like... I bet the rioters... Okay, so just off of what Spencer said, you said that the rioters probably vote more Democrat.
In my opinion, that's what I speculate.
I'm honestly more afraid of the people that the rioters attract. Such as...
Go into detail.
Such as like Antifa or white supremacist groups. Like either extreme of what is attracted to chaos.
Yeah.
To me is kind of the same person. It's just a person that does... Oh, I have to be careful here. To me, it just seems like a person that feeds off of any sort of destruction.
I see. I see.
What I mean?
They're opportunists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That's what scares me more, because like, yeah, rioters are violent, and depending on the kind of rioter, they'll probably leave you alone. But if it's somebody just there to like, that doesn't care about the underlying reason or cause, they're just there because they're trying to stir shit up.
There is a diversity of the fringe.
Yes.
There's a diversity of the fringe.
Yes.
There's black Marxists. There's probably white supremacists. I've heard this boogaloo thing. Have you heard anything?
Oh
like
man,
that?
we could go so far. We probably shouldn't. The right is so fascinating to me, because there are so many.
The right.
The
right? Right. Okay. Yeah.
GHT.
Yeah. Okay,
Capital
gotcha.
R.
Yeah.
Because there are so many different, and the left too. I'm not saying that the left doesn't have this, but there are so many different. What was it you said?
Like different groups or radical groups.
Yeah,
and
there are
stuff
so
like
many
that.
different radical. I mean, like, there are perfectly like reasonable people such as yourself that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That would consider yourself to be on the right, but you're also not you're not somebody that lives like in the middle of nowhere in Stevens County, Washington.
The funny thing you say about that is the older I get, the more appealing it is, because when I was younger, I was like all about the city, right? And not necessarily out in the middle of nowhere and stuff. I'd feel like, a good 35-minute drive like away from the city, kind of a little bit out. It sounds more appealing. Shit, I mean, maybe, get another 30 years older or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe, like the farm country life might be appealing to me and stuff. But, it is somewhat appealing to me now, but I don't know. Obviously, I've just seen Seattle, and just the wackiness it's given me. It gives me more anxiety. I kind of freak out more, and so like I'm not going to disclose where I'm at right now, but I'm outside of Seattle.
Give your address.
To my future, to my stalkers. Yeah, for my 11 subscribers that I have right now. But the older I get, it is a little bit more appealing. But I'm not like that yet.
Well, okay, so I guess I should clarify. Like, what I was saying wasn't like an attack on people that live in rural areas.
Oh no.
I would in the future, like, I would love to live out in the middle of nowhere too. What I was gonna say is that you're like, there are fringes on the right that like we were talking about this the other day about people that want to sow chaos for the sole purpose of achieving a white ethno state kind of level bullshit like that. That's like what I'm more afraid. I mean, you guys can't see me, and I probably don't sound like this. And my name certainly, Jack Johannessen. You'd probably imagine a certain type of person. But
I'm Canadian.
Yeah. I'm actually brown. I say I'm mixed, but
if anything, I could describe you as like
a caramel color.
Yeah. If like T.I. was Mexican, like that's. What you know about that essay? What you know?
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't usually feel that way about. I don't know. I have a very complicated relationship with the concept of race, but the whole white ethno-state stuff is particularly disgusting to me because not because I feel it's like a personal attack to me or to my family, but I just think it's just such a stupid
it is a little
idea. It's an affront to what America is supposed to be.
I definitely agree, and I think it's not necessarily close to one group. I think there are. I don't know why white supremacy gets the mainstream when there's clearly a drive for an ethno-state for almost all countries. Mexican, black, and whatever else, even country or color, Polish, Russian, whatever it is.
But it's just like maybe it's just a pushback on globalism.
At its core. There's patriotism, nationalism, socialism. Socialism kind of goes into the form of globalism, and I think each part has some things correct. And when it comes to patriotism and the United States, I think that is definitely the most important, because even though we are different cultures, different backgrounds, we're all American. And I think it's that we're all wearing the same jersey. Even though you go to a Sounders or basketball, whatever stadium you go to, there's going to be many religions, different creeds, races, and everything like that. We're wearing the same jersey, and we're kind of saying "fuck yeah."
Exactly.
And that's. I feel like there's this weird push for that division.
Yeah, we just we need a lot more. We need a lot more unity, and by unity, I don't mean like that's the antithesis of diversity. I just mean that we need to come to an understanding that we really have more in common with each other, not just biologically, but just like with our what we want. We want a good life for ourselves and a better life for our families. And I really think that most people, no matter what their religion or color or whatever, that's the end goal. And we disagree about how we want to get there. But for the most part, that's basically it. The people that are just like outside of that just want to watch the world burn. I really like.
I kind of want to see it at times, but I understand a little bit.
I totally. I get to sometimes I get to a dark place where I want that too, but I also think
But I think that's just driven by Hollywood or something like that. Right. We're just kind of like, oh, it looks cool in theory, but we're kind of seeing it now. We're like, oh no, shit, hit the brakes, brakes.
But I feel bad for those kinds of people, and I really do think to some degree, like they need help. I think de-radicalization is actually a cool thing, and not just for de-radicalizing people that are in danger of joining foreign terrorist groups, but even domestic terrorist or hate groups or just whatever you want to call it. Groups.
And
left and right.
And I honestly think, as a marketer and I'm on social media a lot, it is a necessary evil, as in, for business, for communication, it's amazing. But at the same time, from what I've done my research domestically and internationally, there are a lot of domestic and foreign powers that are putting in money to cause the division, to weaken us. A good example is Britain and the U.S. during the Civil War. Britain supplied the South. They wanted the South to dominate the North. I mean, they're kind of living vicariously through these groups, putting in money and promoting them for their agenda, internationally and domestically. And a lot of it's social media. We fucking look through this thing, and they're so addicting and they're so bad for you. I swear to God, when I have a child, this is kind of me being out in the farmlands and stuff. I don't want to give my kid a goddamn phone ever. He'll fucking learn I don't know. I'll give him a pager or something like that. And he'll,
a pager?
Yeah, and I'll put a payphone in the middle of the city and tell him to fucking call me or something like that. I just
send your pigeon.
I think the drive of information that we get is negative, and we're getting an abundance of it. And I think it's essentially kind of a drug. We're getting a large abundance.
Makes us all feel shitty.
Yeah, we get a large abundance of a negative feed that we're driven off of. It is kind of like crack, and it's affecting us. It's affecting the society, because I know, obviously this is anecdotal. I have not met many racist people. I've met, kind of edgy, kind of racist people. They just some rednecks, or even just like some black people, just like kind of saying shit. I'm like, fuck that white guy. To me, it's just like, okay, that's kind of cool. It's like whatever and stuff. But like, there's people that are just driven, trying to just fucking destroy everybody's life and stuff like that. And realistically, every person, trust me, there's some really shitty people out there. But generally speaking, those people, you caught them in like the worst comment. Yeah. And you recorded it and you posted it on social media, thousands of retweets, thousands of likes, and everything else. This guy's life's ruined. This guy's life is ruined over a dumb fucking joke. You don't know the context, even in the videos that you see and stuff like that. And I've seen a lot of stranded videos where, a bunch of police officers are attacking black people. I've seen a lot of black on white violence and stuff. They create this montage. So you're like,
just get amped
fuck
up.
Black people, fuck cops, fuck all, fuck fuck whatever,
fuck
right?
Insert
blank. Yeah, exactly. And you look at that and you're just like, that like a good montage of something negative for a good 10 minutes can radically change someone. Yeah. I mean, there's teenagers that join ISIS. That was a huge issue, a few years back. It's not in the mainstream anymore. I don't know about it, but like,
it's probably still happening. It's just not being reported.
Yeah, just listen to my podcast, nothing else, and get off social media. Just only listen to
I can't even go on YouTube anymore without just being like, I don't know why I came on.
Yeah, and I see it, the recommended videos, the algorithms that do it. You see something slightly kind of fucked up, The George Floyd thing will link you to a bunch of other bad cop things. Cops aren't bad. Majority of people are not that bad. The ones who are the worst get the loudest voice. Yeah. And that's, me being pretty right-sided of things, I don't want to regulate it, but at the same time, I'm like, fuck, maybe these are like the few, these are the few things and stuff. I'm not regulation. I'm not that far libertarian, but I think I'm a libertarian to a point where, if it doesn't have an externality or something like that, I don't care. And I feel like this marketing thing is definitely turning into an externality.
Yeah, for sure.
And for sure. Yeah, it's such a weird balance. It's like, because you want information out there, but at the same time, there are driving forces that are weaponizing it. Yeah. Pro-Republican, pro-Democrat, pro-white, pro-police, pro everything. Yeah.
They'll even sell you
anti this, anti that, anti everything.
Maybe here's a good rule. If if there's some event that happens and there's a cause and people are dividing themselves into camps, if they start merchandise, if there's like merchandise to wear for your particular team, then that's probably something you shouldn't participate in.
Yeah.
Like those God, the only example I can think of, this is gonna get me in trouble. The only example I can think of is those like Blue Lives Matter flags with the
the blue line across the flag.
I actually, to be honest with you, I didn't know for the longest time that that's what that was. I actually think those are kind of cool.
Yeah, they're aesthetically pleasing.
But at the same time, just know that buying that is like
it can get you in trouble. It's like it's for
participating in this market.
some people, it's like the swastika.
Well, it's not even that. It's like it's participating in this market that in the end is just dividing people.
Yeah, I mean,
even
I mean, you kind of can dumb it down to like a football team essentially.
Yeah.
We're under the NFL, which is America, but we have all these different flags as Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, everything else. I think the Nazis kind of got kicked out of the league. They didn't place.
They were allowed in the first place.
I know. Remember, before it was the AFL and NFL, they were part of the AFL and they got kicked out. But but what I'm saying is but we're under different flags.
So interrelated.
Well, yeah, I feel like the flags are kind of in a somewhat form of intersectionality. I'm Black, I'm Catholic, I'm Jew, you just like all these different things and stuff like that. And I wish we can just take pride in everything. We could take pride in being Irish, Russian, Black, Asian, Korean, Japanese, all these different flags that we could fall under. But at the end of the day, we just kind of like, hey, fuck you, but we're cool. You're on my, like we love the sport, and we need to find the motivation to just love this sport, which is America.
Yeah.
The NFL.
Yeah. Rather than love the team.
Yeah. Instead of, have you
positive.
seen like Raiders and 49ers or 49ers and, not
Or
Texans, but Cowboys? They just
49ers.
Yeah. But in a sense, I kind of think some of it is inevitable. And it kind of goes back to the marketing of the news, because they make money off the division.
Yeah, they for sure do.
So I feel like just doing this podcast and talking with you and talking with others from different states domestically and countries as well, I feel like I could help kind of implement and dissect something, and I could have my followers listen and say, things aren't that bad.
Yeah.
Let's be good at home.
Yeah.
And I said this in the last podcast, is bottom up. Be good to yourself before you could change the world.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Peterson says that. I don't know if you listen to Jordan Peterson or if you heard much of him.
I've seen some of his stuff, yes.
Yeah.
I know who he is.
Yeah. I'm not asking you if you agree with him or not.
No, I can't even. I don't even know, like, I can't even put my finger on. There's some people that, so even, okay, like people thought Joe Rogan is, or maybe it's just the YouTube. Maybe it's just the YouTube algorithm. I swear, like any
it's
right
the division
thing,
channels that you're watching.
I gotta go on. I don't know what I gotta just.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. The thing. Let's just say with respect to Jordan Peterson, that it's weird that the other videos that I am recommended after certain videos that I watch, I would never expect, like Joe. It's weird how Joe Rogan pops up on a lot of like right-leaning stuff, because he is not.
There's
right
a few a few explanations for that, and a lot of it is algorithms, but a lot of it is his SEO and the keywords that he does put into it.
Yeah,
and he interviews kind of both side thing. It's funny. I watch someone who is kind of center, a little bit left, Jimmy Dore.
No,
he's kind of a comedian, kind of left-wing commentator.
Sure.
But he has these skits where he kind of replays like he's making fun of like Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump and
Sure.
stuff, and they do kind of like a review of the whole full video and stuff, and they kind of break it down and stuff like that. But it's a certain video can put you in a completely different direction, and they want that. They want the funnel. It's a funnel.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I was gonna say to your point about being proud to be a certain thing. I think it was George Carlin that said, and I'm paraphrasing, that he would see different bumper stickers on different days that say like, "I'm proud to be Irish," or "proud to be," proud to be Irish.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he'd say to
whatever.
himself,
Yeah.
"What the fuck does that mean?"
yeah,
And he concludes that pride shouldn't be reserved for something that happens by accident of birth. So just be like happy to be something. Instead, be proud of something that you achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I mean, everybody's Irish on, St. Patty's Day and stuff like that. But no one really knows much about
Yeah,
St.
right.
Patrick and stuff. But I do want to conclude with this last subject, and it's funny you touched on that, and I just remembered it. I know. Do you still practice Catholicism?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your interpretation on pride when it comes to not necessarily just the LGBT community, but when it comes to just all groups and races? Since pride is technically one of the deadly sins, where is that line of being proud of who you are and going towards the sin of pride?
Well, like you said, just like build up, like start with yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
You said that right? Not
yeah.
You said that, or you said Jordan Peterson?
No.
said that.
Well, Jordan Peterson said it as well, and I kind of agreed in saying, kind of build yourself up, start in the home, and build the world around you instead of attacking things kind of head on. I say that a lot. So
I guess it would be. I think people just we all need to be more humble about things.
Yeah.
And
social media, the most narcissistic thing you can do.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know how else to say it. We just need to be more humble about things. I don't think there's anything wrong with like necessarily celebrating like who certain people are, who certain groups are as a people. I mean, you may disagree with the concept.
I'm kind of stumping you on this question, huh?
It's an interesting question because, like, you may disagree with the concept of having a Pride Month, but like every group of people has a parade for one thing or another, at least like some kind of celebration.
But do you feel like even the Pride can be divisive? There's a lot of people that get mad about Black History Month. Gay pride parades,
sure,
or
sure.
LGBT month or whatever they have going on and stuff like that. I don't pay attention.
So I'll admit, without really answering the question, I have two things about Black History Month and Pride. Mm-hmm. Not Pride the sin, but Pride the movement.
The LGBT.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So. I don't know if you know who Daryl Davis is. It
sounds very familiar.
He's a black jazz musician. That
yes. We've talked about him before. Yeah.
So he was on Joe Rogan, and he was saying that instead of teaching Black history like 1 month of the year, where that's what we pay attention to in February in history class, and then forget about those figures for the rest of the year, that we should always be teaching about those figures, not
I think
solely, but
stretch it out.
But stretch it out.
Yes. I do remember this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Explain to the audience. Yeah.
So basically, like he's saying, if you've seen this on YouTube, the title is why it's something. This is not accurate. It's like why we should eliminate Black History Month.
Okay,
It's a very clickbaity title.
Yeah.
But what he's saying is that he thinks that we kind of always need to be paying
Don't
attention
concentrate it
to particular figures, because then it's kind of like, not only that, but then it's kind of like relegating that, like, the Black community has only 1 month. By the way, it's the shortest month of the year.
Yeah. I never thought about it.
Exactly. It's fucked up.
We gave you 29 days or 28 days. What the fuck? I never thought about that, dude. That kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I didn't say it. Daryl Davis said it.
I know. They're all probably all standing around. They're just, what month? August?
February.
The
what? Worst
28?
month.
Yeah. Well, leap years. You really celebrate leap years, though, right?
No. And then, like, I remember, so there's that, and then with Pride, I remember when I was like 13, I used to, I could go till 7:30, by the way. Even like,
okay. Let's kind of go last subject. Just, because we're.
I remember being, like, I used to go to this youth group on Vashon Island that, at least at the time, and they probably still are, like a pretty conservative group of people. Like, they all loved George Bush and stuff, like, loved George Bush at the time. This was like 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
And they're all great. Like, they're a great group of people. They helped my mom, like, do some farm stuff one summer, and I guess bottom line is they're like a sweet group of people. But I remember one thing that I found kind of, I don't know, disturbing, was somebody told me that Hurricane Katrina was sent by God to stop a pride parade from happening in New Orleans. which is
oh man,
which, like, I knew even as a kid, like, that is
what the
shit.
fuck is that?
Yeah.
Oh, I love those people. Honestly, like, everybody's like, oh, screw those people. But I want those people to say that crazy shit, because that's fucking stupid.
And I guess I should say, like, they are good people in their actions, but they think some very funny things.
They're on those alt-right 4chan sites, huh?
This is pre. Well, 4chan's been around for a while, but
I think it was like 2004 or 1 or something like that. Yeah.
But it's just it's interesting to me how when a hurricane hits anywhere else that isn't about to have a pride parade, it's not because God is sending a hurricane to teach the rednecks a lesson. You know, it's very, like, cherry picking, like, God sends hurricanes for and what God doesn't send hurricanes for.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this about Pride because you asked me if the Pride can sow division, and I will say that yes, it can sow division, because there'll always be people that just, like, vehemently disagree with your lifestyle.
Or kind of the people that are like, what about me? You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
And maybe feel not necessarily
left out.
Left out. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't celebrate who you are, especially since, good Lord, like, the gay community has had to put up with a lot of crap.
Oh yeah, definitely.
A lot, like the Black community, like the Native Americans,
mm-hmm.
You know, what have you. Name insert blank.
Yeah, and I guess my only pushback, I mean, coming from me, but I know other people will say that, is that I have an Irish background.
Mm-hmm.
When before blacks, there was Irish, and the reason why the Irish were slaves before blacks. The only reason why they weren't later on was because of the melanin. A lot of people say that basically the reason for black was not because you're black, is because the melanin, because you could stay out in the fields longer and things like that. Because the people, the Irish, who were slaves, who have been treated poorly, by the Spaniards, the Brits, and so on. They've been basically dominated for many years.
Yeah.
Which is why you have the IRA, pushing back on them and stuff, or
still.
while back, yeah. And it's not as much now, in my opinion, from what I've noticed. But I think we could cherry pick the history as well. Sure, some are more recent than the others. Jews in World War II, blacks, in the early foundings of America, Mexicans during the war. There's a bunch of things, and I just kind of want to say, like, what is the threshold where it's like the past is the past?
It's interesting.
Japanese internment camps, so on. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because I listened to your whole first episode with Nicholas Collins.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Shout out to Nicholas.
As you should too.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of things that caught my attention, and one thing was the war reparations, or
yes,
war reparations, slavery reparations.
Yeah.
And it was interesting hearing that. I'd never heard anybody really go into depth about what that would really look like, and it was interesting hearing him say that while there are going to have to be some boundaries on who is eligible to be paid.
Yeah, and I agree. If it's going to come down to that, yeah.
Like, if you're African,
like, no, because
because
you're living in a good time now where it's not as bad.
Your generation hasn't. At this point in time, your generation hasn't. Yeah. Maybe
like there's many professors that are old school that are African. From one of my professors from Cameroon. Shout out to Dr. Danji. He's a very successful microbiologist, I believe, and yeah, he taught himself 3 different languages, and he got himself through it and stuff like that. Yeah, there was economic, and there was there was classes. There was a bunch of things he went into, and when he starts, I think. And I'm going to just say this to Black Lives Matter. You need to come up with better details, because once you paint a broad stroke, the right side is just going to just shut you down, because a lot of it just sounds ridiculous, because there are many people who are black, who have benefited, that are in the higher class, that in our opinion don't deserve, because they have lived out their American dream. There are people who are just black, but they came here and they're successful as well. So there's a huge range of things, and it's so complicated. And this is just me trying to help you out, try to bring us together a lot more. Is get down to the details of what you were talking about. Don't paint these broad strokes. Don't listen to the mainstream media and try to just take the talking points. Like, do your research and figure out what's the cost going to be for reparations, who's going to be eligible for it, and all these things, because we're also concerned about fraud as well. I mean, Jack, you're what percentage do you think you're black? Even though you could definitely pull off you're black. Like, what percentage do you think you are? Do you feel like you are owed reparations?
At most 25%. I'm probably owed reparations by the Brazilian government, because they had slavery until like 1889. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah. So,
but I also don't necessarily feel like I am. But I'm just, my personal experience and my racial ambiguity and my lack of feeling that I've been victimized shouldn't be shouldn't be taken as the reality of as everybody else.
I did not say that right. No, I get what you're saying. I mean, I'm white and I've been victimized in my own way, but there's a lot of people like me who believe I've been victimized I'm not asking for anything. I'm just kind of keeping my head down and going.
Sure.
Again, I'm not trying to equate the two, but this is just what some other people are thinking as well. And it's kind of basically what I'm saying is I'm pretty right-sided on things. I'm more of a libertarian. I just want to be left alone, but I'm here talking to people on the other side, even on my side as well. I'm just trying to gain more perspectives domestically and internationally, and I just want to figure out how we could get ourselves together a little bit more. And if you're just going to paint these broad strokes that white people are evil or America is the most evil place, you need to look into history a lot more, because there's a lot more evil going on than you think. And if you're just taking your talking points from CNN, get off the internet, get off the TV, read a few history books from multiple authors from different sides, left, right, center, libertarian, whatever it is, and gain perspective. I mean, I'm reading Noam Chomsky. I do want to read Mein Kampf. I want to read some of the radical things to gain a perspective on it, because it makes me curious. I want to know where people are coming from. And I feel like everybody should do that. And travel, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been to many countries and stuff. America's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Yeah. It's interesting, like, so I've been, I haven't traveled overseas for almost 10 years, but I've been to China once. I was there for a little over a month. I've been to Germany, Austria, Italy, Switzerland, France, Luxembourg, the UK. So, England and Scotland. I haven't been to Ireland or Wales.
Yeah.
But traveling definitely gives you a unique perspective on your own country and the world. I think it's important that as Americans, like, especially we're really, really bad at thinking that we're like the center of the universe.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just not the case. And I will admit there are things that I do like about other countries more than I like about the United States.
Yeah.
There are, I guess, there are trade-offs in other countries that to me, just with my values, just seem more appealing than the United States.
Yeah.
Would I ever move out of the United States? Yeah, I might for like a year or two.
But where would you die? Where would you retire? Here?
Where would I retire? I don't know. Probably somewhere here.
Yeah.
We want to move back to Washington just to be closer to family. Obviously, Washington is in the United States.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, traveling is important. I mean, it's definitely right now with COVID, it's so fucked up.
It's fucking impossible. Yeah. That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. But like at some, if things get, I don't want to say get back to normal. I will say when things transform into a new normal. And if international traveling becomes something that we can continue to do in some different but safe or safer capacity, then I think it's something we should definitely do. I drove for Lyft for a while last year.
In Minnesota.
Yeah, in Minnesota. Yeah. And like, I remember one passenger in particular who told me that she was going to Paris it was a white woman. She was going to Paris with a friend of hers for like a week or two.
Yeah.
And her and her husband live somewhere in Missouri and on like a ton of land. I remember asking her like, "Oh, is your husband going with you?" And she said, "No, he doesn't really want to do that. That doesn't seem appealing to him. He'd rather be at home." And I gotta be polite because it's customer service, but I just thought that was so like close-minded of this person. I mean, granted, I don't know this person. I've never met him. I don't know. He's probably got his reasons. But if it's just because you don't want to, I just think that's so close-minded of somebody to just not want to go somewhere else because you got to get out of your comfort zone and experience new things, because not only does it make you smarter and give you a new perspective, but like I don't know, maybe it's just us two, but to me traveling is one of the most enriching things that I can experience.
I think when you're young, stop buying this. Don't buy the beer, don't buy the booze, don't buy the cigarettes. Just save a couple grand and just go somewhere and
get off Amazon Prime.
Exactly right. Get off Starbucks, get off all these things, and you'll see. I wish I did it earlier. I started when I was 23. Yeah, 23, and it's kind of instilled my beliefs a lot more. Like what I believed, I have like confirmed a lot more. But it's also changed some of the things as well too. And it's very important. And I believe more people should.
Yeah, I do too. Traveling's important.
Jack, you want to give some of your plugs?
Yeah,
we're gonna wrap up here.
So my podcast is called CT The Head, and it is on
CT, the letter.
Yep, CT. So like if you've ever, like CT scans. So CT The Head. It is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and according to those are the only two places that I put it on. But according to my analytics, people can listen to it on basically anything.
You're on YouTube as well.
Yeah, it's on YouTube also. So, give it a listen. Send me comments. In the episodes, I give like my Instagram and my email, like my email for the podcast. The Instagram for the podcast is, I think it's just at CT The Head, and that's the same. That's the same with the Facebook page too. Mm-hmm. So it'd be awesome to hear from you guys. Give it a listen, see what you think. Tell me if there's stuff that's just wrong or inaccurate, or
he does a lot of
constructive any constructive criticism. What's good, what's not.
He does
so
a
good.
lot of research, and that's why I appreciate you're a very analytical person. So.
I try to be. I just think because it's a science.
It's the economics degree.
Yeah, it probably is.
In economic mathematics, right? Yeah. You got it.
I just think it's. I held myself to a pretty high standard since it's science, that I think things should be as current as they can be. Of course, the COVID episode has been the most popular, but that was released on March 23rd, and things are like totally different now.
Yeah.
But people are so sick and tired of this pandemic.
Yeah.
That I probably won't be doing anything on any sort of infectious. Well, that's not true. Just not on COVID.
Yeah.
There'll be plenty of episodes about infectious diseases.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
dude.
This guy traveled all the way from Minnesota to here, so
not just to be with you.
Well, thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, of course, man.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. See you there.
Yeah. That was fun.